This is likely the final chapter. I feel like I'm just gonna get attacked now. What was that? Weird vertical thing? I don't know. My goal might be to light every torch in this underground area that seems to be corrupted with the enemy, and that there are tendrils of smoke everywhere I go. I thought that was the enemy for a second there, the robed figure, but it was just this. So he was chained up, and he died. Alone. And the berries are right next to him, and the berries seem to heal people and help people, so it seems he specifically refused to eat them. Because he seemed to have food with him, but the only food they gave him was the thing that he refused to have. There's something glowy this way. This is the workshop. Oh, this is his workshop, isn't it? There's him helping the sick. He crafted these vials. He crafted the things that I use to operate everything. And there's his body. Do I have to lay down because I'm the woman from those visions, right? His hands are actually around it. His hands are around the thing that I need. What were we, twins or something? So the thing that's been attacking us seems to have been our sibling, in addition to everything else. And then they learned, they studied. They're just going through the phases of life, so then we divide, is what's going on here, right? We joined the Order. And he trained as a scholar. As an apprentice, it looks like. He seems to have passed on the cowl directly from somebody else. Might even explain why specifically his cowl is different color than the rest of his clothes, because it actually matched the appearance of the previous person more. They each followed different orders, different paths in life. He figured out how to use power. Then the power reaches the masses. Because... Which she seems... Did she... So they did that against his will, didn't they? Also, can I walk through these? You can. I was wondering. From behind, there's nothing there. That's when they were having the harvest problem. They were having the harvest problem, they fixed it with the light. It plays evil music when I don't look at him, like he's gonna attack me. There's the sick, the dying. And that, yep, that's when they took him away. Because after they fixed the harvest with the substance, but then he was blamed when things happened to people. Well, he didn't die refusing food. He was actually strangled to death. He was murdered by the hunter. come this far. So what was it all for? Is the last location where the hunter is preserved? Who we now know as a murderer? Am I picking one or the other? This one has a bunch of coffins that are all closed. And this one has a bunch of coffins that are all open, except for the bottom ones for some reason. Is that indicating that they will open, or like, are those the ones that are sacrificed or something? Let's go ahead and make a save. Seems like we're making like a judgment call as to whether or not they get to survive. Like, should the society be allowed to live again or not? Do I awaken everybody? But is he celebrated as a hero in this path? Like he's the one who saved everyone? Despite everything? The sensitivity on these is surprisingly low. I have to like pick up the mouse over and over again. That was the wrong call to make. Why don't you work? What am I missing about that? I guess I should look at what my actual goal is. I'm trying to make it go somewhere. Do all of them at once, I guess? It's like I want it to go out in like an outer ring, presumably. I guess that's why you want to loop back around. Okay. Well, now what have I done? I think I just set everyone free. In fact, there was straight up an achievement that said, "Awake my people." I also got an achievement called Ultimate Survival. I'm not sure what that one was for. Holy crap, that guy was pushing a gargantuan block all on his own. Apparently this is a kingdom of titans. Also a little concerned by the safety regulations there. They're working with those fumes that would hurt me. There were all those fumes that would hurt me on site, and they were not on site, but they were causing me damage by just being in them, and they weren't even wearing masks or eye protection. That's a terrible idea. So I think the idea is there's supposed to be like a, I think there's like a mixed moral thing going on there a little bit. Like I think it's supposed to be like morally gray which side to go on, because like on one hand, first of all, you discover that the person that's been attacking you all game is your sibling, and that they're trying to stop you from they're seemingly stopping you from reactivating stuff or something, because they see this kingdom as a darkness or something. Then you find out that their leader, I assume the leader of their kingdom, is the one who actually killed your brother in the first place. Then you have the choice to basically, you can spitefully leave them all sealed, or you can release them all. And I realized that if I did the door choice, I probably could have switched it between the two back and forth as much as I wanted, because you probably don't only make the decision by doing the final spiral thing at the end. But you can choose to release them all, and then they have another period of prosperity, presumably, but they might make the same mistakes all over again, and you're also letting the guy who killed your brother get what he wanted. But maybe that's for the best, and maybe it's not. So, mixed feelings about this game across the board, really. It's beautiful, and that's really the main thing that has going for it. The story I don't think is enough reason to play the game, because the story itself is like really minimal. It's the rise and fall of a kingdom, and then you have a choice to save them or not, basically at the end. And the only wrinkle is the whole brother stuff, but even then, like, this, it's just very... It's a very bare-bones story told non-vocally through a handful of pictures, but the story is told in a cool way, in that the little animated cutscene hieroglyphic things are all really cool looking, and generally the game looks good too. But then you get the gameplay itself is largely exploration and puzzles, and the exploration is slightly iffy because the game has like these weird performance problems that it probably shouldn't have with like the settings and hardware that I'm using for it. And also the puzzles are like, I don't think I encountered a single puzzle that was unique and special to this game. Every single one of them I think I've played in other games. Sometimes many, many, many times, to the point where like we have a word for it. Is really discouraging when the moment I got to the open world, I'm like, look, an open world, I wonder what's gonna happen. Oh, cool. Lights Out. We found Lights Out again. The game that's in every game. Because it seems to be very easy to program, I guess, because it just seems to find its way into every RPG and even many puzzle games. There's just not a... It feels like the puzzles and the story weren't the point. Like, because it's an indie developer, they're often, like, passionate about something very specific. And I get the feeling that the visuals are what they were passionate about, and everything else just was sort of there. Like, it was obligatory, like, here's gameplay, and here's story. And they were more interested in how they're going to tell the story via the cutscenes, and how they were going to design the world visually, than perhaps they were in how the whole thing was going to come together on a gameplay perspective, or or whether the story was really going to go much of anywhere. It kind of feels like as if a AAA company, like as if the visual design people from a AAA company just sort of split off and made their own game without any of the other people. Like, and they do the one thing really well, but I don't know if it's I don't think that necessarily makes it like a well-rounded game, necessarily. It's also structured really strangely. Like, I don't think my comparisons to Final Fantasy 15 were wrong in that, yeah, like, there's a linear intro section, then there's the mandatory... there's the middle part that's the longest, where it has a couple of mandatory things, but tons of optional stuff that you don't even necessarily know is there by default. And then it goes back to linear hallways again. And, like, the fact that the open world part is such a specific and limited chunk of the overall playtime, almost like especially if you don't specifically strive to complete it like I did, it makes it feel like there was two clashing design ideas in a way. Well, we've come this far, we might as well... Oh, that was a long one, wasn't... That was the wrong one, I was supposed to load the top one. Whoops. But we've come this far, so I might as well go check out the other ending. When I actually remember which one to click on. High above and down below, there we go. The only thing that, like, a lot of the stuff didn't even really feel like puzzles, and many of the puzzles that did feel like puzzles were, like, prefab type things, like Lights Out. And then even the laser puzzles had, like, at most what felt like one room worth of puzzles. I'm a little surprised they didn't just make it a walking simulator, as people call them, the way that many people just make those. Just because, like, it seems like their primary incentive was just to make a visual thing, with some story told along the way. So does this version make everyone die, or does it just allow them to stay in stasis forever as nature... Yeah, this is nature completely overtaking the kingdom. I will say that one way or another, I don't think that the comparisons to The Witness and Mist are apt. Oh, me doomed to be alone forever. I think rather than comparing this to The Witness, like, a little bit of The Vanishing of Ethan Carter I can get, but The Witness and Mist? I don't know about that. I don't know about that being the comparison to draw, because The Witness was a very mechanically driven puzzle game. And the puzzle mechanics driving the entire experience was the entire experience. Okay, so instead of unleashing everybody, we walk into nature and just accept our lonely fate as the world repairs itself in the absence of mankind. See, this is the strength of the game, that coming over an edge and having the sunbeams peek out over the mountain as you... Although I still wonder why my eyes are covered in dust. Like, look at that dust texture. It's weird. Like, that still only makes sense if I'm wearing, like, a space helmet or glasses. The way that it's covered in smudges and dust. That's not how eyes work. That's the whole reason we have tears, is so that your eyes aren't covered in dust. The actual God rays make sense, but it's the weird on-screen filter that happens with them sometimes that's the weirder part. Was this a riverbed before? I think it was. Did the water stop? Did we turn off the irrigation or something? Have we... I think we've arrived at the actual coast, or... Wait, no, this might just be the lake. We're just gonna peace out, I think. Holy crap, by the way, we are good at rowing. Look at the speed we're picking up. That's impressive. Interestingly, the game is called Aporia Beyond the Valley, which seems to suggest that the Beyond the Valley option might be the one they intend you to take. wonder what that detail was. Was that like the one... Was that like the one thing I forgot to close? The one I didn't find? Because I was closing them one by one. I think the idea is that if you choose that path, you must be planning on like getting rid of all traces of their civilization and then just leaving, so the Earth can heal. So maybe I failed that by leaving one behind. Because I don't know where that was. That looked hidden, that looked pretty hidden away. Huh. So as my final closing thought, I guess, what this game reminds me of most, I think, is the game Zenith, which is a game I played last year, which I recommend checking out the playthrough of that if you haven't before, because it's an interesting example of a really focused indie thing. That game had fantastic writing. And even, like, I almost said voice acting, and I remembered I did the voice acting in the game. There was no voice acting. Whoops. It had fantastic writing, great story structure, and a variety of good jokes. Every now and then there was a dumb, like, meme-style joke here and there, but the overall story was actually, like, heartfelt and made sense and had a lot of really good callbacks throughout the thing, and, like, it was structured with setups and payoffs and everything in a way that was, like, really impressive. It was way more tightly written than I was ever used to encountering in an indie game, or even a AAA game, or just video games in general. Like, I was caught off guard by how much story there was while simultaneously being tight and interconnected and character-driven and stuff like that. Like, it was really impressive. But its gameplay was hot garbage, and it looked terrible. The visuals were terrible. The gameplay was like, one of the worst action RPGs I've ever played in my entire life, basically. There was so many things to dragging it down, but its writing was incredible. Like, it was like, wow, look how good this writing is in this weird niche indie game that no one's probably going to remember by the end of the year, because, like, I think it flew right under the radar for everybody. And I would compare this game to that, and that this game, the visuals were clearly a focus and done well. And everything, like, the visual component of everything was done well. The visual component of the puzzles, the visual component of just, like, the world design, and the visual component of the storytelling, like, that stuff all looked nice, despite a lot of rough edges here and there. Like, this series of still frames we get during the credits help do a good job at, like, summarizing how good this game looked whenever you were looking at, like, an overall landscape. Like, a location in summary looked great. Up close, all the details look kind of bad, and we just gotta be honest about that. But, like, on a grand scale, it all looked really nice. It was really well designed visually, and that was nice to look at. So that seems to be a specific brand of... It's a specific brand of, like, clashing good-bad that I'm noticing happens with indie games sometimes that have a certain ambition, is that there's obviously the ones that completely suck, and there's the ones that really nail it across the board, and they're often like these weird nightmare love letters that took like 7 years to make, like Cuphead and Owlboy and stuff like that. That, man, it's gotta suck to be stuck in that kind of development hell. And you have gems here and there that nail it regardless, without having to be in some sort of weird development hell. But I am definitely slowly, like, building a list mentally of games that did certain things really well and certain things really poorly, and I think this makes that list. But it's a gorgeous game, but, like, it advertises itself as a puzzle game, and it's, like, for the most part, it's not a puzzle game, in that you spend huge chunks of the game not doing any puzzles. In fact, when I was picking this as my next puzzle game to play, I, like, had a moment of panic because I realized I had recorded for an entire hour so far and never encountered an actual puzzle yet, because the first hour doesn't have a single puzzle in it until you get to the open world finally, basically. And then much of the ending doesn't have much in puzzles, and, like, there's really just a handful of puzzles, but then what puzzles there are super, super derivative and rote. So the puzzle stuff, despite being like an advertisement bullet point for why to buy the game, were clearly not a focus, as far as I can tell. I mean, I'd be shocked if they were ever the focus of this game, or the inspiration for this game, because they don't seem inspired. They seem like almost like someone looked up puzzles that exist in games and got the list of the most common ones, essentially. And that's a bummer, because I like finding surprises in these different puzzle games and what kind of ideas they come up with. And as somebody who as somebody speaking from the perspective of somebody who's like more experienced, I guess, with the puzzle genre of video games, and even does escape rooms and stuff like that, from that perspective, I found this game wanting. That's pretty much all there's left to say. Thanks for watching, like always, guys. I think I'm gonna go play another proper puzzle game tomorrow, and then we'll probably go back to another adventure game after that one. I kind of wanted to... This one kind of felt like a swing and a miss as far as puzzle games go, so I kind of want to do another one, and one that I've been waiting to come out of early access or whatever finally did recently, so I think that'll be the next one. Thanks for watching, like always, guys, and I'll see you next time.